If you're a mind, nothing will upset you. Nothing that you eat or drink or breathe will upset you. If you're a body, everything you eat and drink and breathe will upset you and hurt you. And it depends what your purpose is. And so if you become terrified of the world, what's going on in the world, it's only because you want to be terrified of what's going on in the world. I mean, there's no place, the world is a hostile, cruel place. I mean, you'd be insane not to see that.
I saw that, but it didn't do,
but it didn't. This is the thing that's important to me. It didn't because you didn't want to be told anything else at that moment.
And my mind went from that I want this to happen to then I'm thinking of my children and I must want them to suffer too.
Of course.
This whole crazy, insane.
It has to be that way. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel that way.
Yeah.
The Course has us be 100% responsible for everything we feel. And if you're feeling frightened, it's not because they're polluting the atmosphere or the soil or anything else. Whoever the they is, there's always a they out there. And it's not that. If you're frightened, if you're anxious, whether it's for yourself or your family or future grandchildren or great-grandchildren, it's always because you want to be, because that proves that the world is a terrible place, which means the world is real, which means the responsibility for the world is not mine, it's not in me, it's out there. The enemy is not my mind, it's they. They are the enemy. All right, I've said this many, many times over the years, even though the words are not used, what Jesus is describing in this Course is paranoid schizophrenia. That's exactly what he's describing, all right? A schizophrenic is insane, all right? Well, he tells us over and over again we're insane. We see things that are not there, all right? He uses psychiatric words like delusions, hallucinations, etc. Right? And we're paranoid because we think there's something or someone out there that's out to get us. Mm-hmm. The only one out to get us is the ego. And the ego's out to get us because we want the ego to be out to get us. The ego has no power. We're the ego. So we're out to get us. So once you become afraid of the fact that we are minds and not bodies, then it's so easy then to latch onto this, what people label as conspiracy theories.
Well, it dawned on me the difference between this and other things, the other pollutions and things in the world, or all the other things that I kind of thought I had faced a little bit. The thing I learned about this one, I have no control. I can control, even if I'm sick, I can find help, I can work on that. But in this, even if the federal people are trying to steal our money,
they, yes,
whoever, them, they're trying to do that. It's like I still have some sort of little, but in this there was no power, no control,
right.
And that really struck me.
And that's telling you but that's the conclusion you want to reach, because you do have power, not as a body, but you have power as a mind. That's the only way out. I can tell you lots of other things you should be afraid of as a body.
You don't need to.
I won't. I won't. And there are people better at that than I am. But what's important again is to realize that if you end up with a feeling like terror or anxiety, you must have wanted it to be there. That's the point I was making yesterday. If there's no world out there, which is a basic premise of this Course, right? There's no world out there, then how could what's not there affect me? It can only affect me if I give it the power to affect me. So if I end up feeling terrified or incredibly anxious or depressed, right? I'm never terrified, anxious, or depressed for the reason I think. It's never because the world is doing it or they are doing it. They, in quotes, they may have tremendous power over my body or the bodies of my grandchildren. They don't have power over my mind. But if I end up terrified for my safety or the safety of my loved ones, it could only be because I want that to be there. If there's nothing out there and I see it out there, it has to be that I put it out there because there's nothing out there. So the question then becomes purpose. Why would I put it out there? I put it out there because this will prove to me that I'm a body and I'm at the mercy of forces beyond my control. And so that's the clue that something is not what it seems. And so that proves that you're the dream figure and not the dreamer. All right? When you're in your right mind, you see something like that video or any of the other things that could scare the hell out of you and say, isn't that silly? because that's what it is. To think that something in a non-existent world can affect my mind is absurd. I mean, that's psychosis, right? I'm really not totally kidding when I say the Course describes us as being paranoid schizophrenics. Maybe not clinically as the world judges it, because the world sees some people as paranoid and not others. But in terms of how we act as a species, we're paranoid schizophrenics. We see things that are not there. We attribute causes to something that doesn't exist. And we believe everyone in the world, everything in the world is out to get us. Whether it's they, whether it's the people in my personal life, whether it's the, quote, natural process of aging, unquote, whether it's bacteria and viruses. Something, everything out there is out to get me. As I said all the time, there is a conspiracy to get us, absolutely. But it's the ego conspiracy. And then we project it out and we say there are evil forces out there. Right? Well, there aren't evil forces out there, because there isn't any out there. I always give the example, because it's right here. I have this watch and I drop it. And I would say to everybody, why did this watch fall? And everybody would say, because of the law of gravity. There's no law of gravity. This watch falls because we want to believe this world has natural laws that are immutable. And if you drop something, it will fall. And there are all kinds of scientists that will explain the law of gravity to us. Except it's not true. This falls because we want it to fall. We believe on a mass level, a collective level, that the world has natural laws, and we all subscribe to them. It would be possible to throw this up and have it stay in the air. I won't show off. All right? All right? All right? All right? But it falls because we want it to fall, because that means there's a world out here. If there's a world out here, there is no mind. And if there is no mind, I'm safe. Because my mind's choice for the ego can never be undone if I don't know I have a mind. So that chemtrail video was a setup for you. I'm not saying that's why it's in the bookstore, but it's a setup for you. Right? Your ego was cruising. You wanted something to prove that I was wrong. Right? Right. That's right. You dipped into your shopping bag and out came terror. And what's helpful to understand, if it weren't that, it would be something else. The ego doesn't have to have us be afraid of everything. One thing is enough. So you said that you withstood all these terrible calamities in your life, even an alligator chasing you, all right, but not chemtrails. All right, so other people would be afraid of alligators, not chemtrails, right? So it doesn't matter. Again, you want to always understand purpose. All right, and again, this is very, very important. This is what's implied in those two sections, setting the goal and the consistency of means and end. Very, very important sections, and they're kind of parallel. All right, that we set the goal, and the goal ultimately is peace or conflict, awakening from the dream or staying in the dream. Right, God or the ego. We set the goal, and then anything that happens is adjusted to meet that goal. So you set the goal last evening, I want to prove this course is wrong. I want to prove that I'm a body and not a mind. So then out comes this DVD, and this is perfect. You could have just as easily been on the telephone with somebody who would have said something which would upset you, or put on the television and watch a news program which would upset you, but this is what you chose. But again, the meaning of what you watched can be understood from where it ended up, and it ended up with you being terrified. And that's what you have to understand. That's what gets you back to purpose. And when you get back to purpose, you're talking about the mind and not the body.
I feel like something good actually did come out of this, though, because I feel like I learned a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you asked this question, so everybody could benefit from that. So yes, so you did good. Just don't watch any of those videos, and don't watch my videos, for God's sake.
Yeah, they're pretty scary.
They're even more lethal than chemtrails, let me tell you.
Thank you.